Welcome, and yes, today I am super excited because once again I'm going to talk about one of my favorite little micro brands, Dan Henry, and in particular 1962 Racing Chronograph, and it's in the Panda. So if you've watched the video on the state of my collection just before Christmas, you may or may not recall that I suspected I was getting a Dan Henry watch for Christmas from my wife. Now, the reason that came about is because I happened to just casually mention to her about a month before Christmas that Dan was sending me a watch to review, and she looked at me horrified and got all huffy, and I was like, well, it's a brand new watch that's not out yet. So, because I knew immediately that she'd obviously bought me one for Christmas and was worried that poor Dan was going to send me the one she'd bought, but that didn't happen. And yes, she did buy me a watch for Christmas. So, picture this, it's Christmas evening and we're opening presents, and because, you know, I love presents, and I regress into a 5-year-old child on Christmas Day, opening presents. My wife packs multiple presents for me to open. And so I'm opening a couple of presents, which, you know, only because I think you guys will find this funny, I'll show them to you, and I've got them here. But one of them was this actually really adorable book for children that has the alphabet and basically puts a watch or a brand to every letter of the alphabet. So that made me giggle immensely and I loved it. And the other one that made me laugh incredibly hard is I got the Die Hard Christmas Story, which also came with a figurine, which is up there, of John jumping off the Nakatomi Plaza. Now, as a film buff, and I'm well and truly in the camp of Die Hard being a Christmas film, and I don't want to hear otherwise. So every year I watch it at Christmas, much to the, what's not delightful for my wife, but she loves me, so she puts up with it. Anyway, we get to the final present, I open it, and I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure I know I'm getting a Dan Henry. I didn't think I would get this Dan Henry. Yeah, top of my list, Dan Henry, sold out on the website, Dan Henry. Yeah, the Panda 1962 Racing Chronograph. So we're going to talk about this watch today, and I've had it now, it's about mid-January, I think, as I'm recording this, and so I've had this watch for quite some time, and I've worn it a lot. It's 39 millimeters, so it's on the smaller side for me. As Dan says, it's a typical racing chronograph size for its time, based on the vintage, as all his watches are, and it's actually a great size. I initially, you know, because I'm wearing my PAM 422 today at 47 millimeters, and this is a big watch, and you guys know I like big watches. So putting on a little watch always feels a little strange to me, but once I get in the swing of it, I quite enjoy it. And so I've worn this quite a bit, and it is just a really cool, elegant watch. I've worn it on the black leather strap that it comes with, and it also comes with this light tan strap that I've also had on it, which gives it a completely different look and feel. And you'd think that the tan maybe wouldn't work so well with the black, but it does. Specifications. So as I said, it's a 39 millimeter case back, and that's in stainless steel. It's 13.5 millimeters in thickness, 20 millimeters lug width, 45.9 millimeter lug to lug, screw back case, and the dial is matte white with a black sub dial, the 60-minute chronograph, 24-hour indicator, and Luminova loom. The movement is a Seiko, so Japanese caliber VK63 Mecha Quartz with smooth motion center, chrono hand, and instant reset. I'm neither here nor there when it comes to quartz, automatic, or manual. I love them all. I mean, who doesn't love a quartz watch where you just kind of set it and forget it? Like, the lazy part of me absolutely loves that. The automatic, I think the ingenuity of the movement of your wrist to keep everything running is superb. And, you know, a manual watch, I absolutely love winding this watch every other day. And the whole ethos around Dan is he wants to source high quality parts for his watches, but so he can still make a watch that's sort of, you know, in the vintage style of whatever he's going for that particular model, but that's at an affordable price for a collector. Now, so Dan hits the brief on this every time, I feel. You know, and you guys, I think by now know I'm a bit of a fangirl of Dan, and I think he's a lovely guy. We chat quite a bit because we just love watches. That's the whole point, right? It's kind of like I was talking about Dave Portnoy or Portnoy, or however you say his name, and you know, he kind of missed the mark with Brick because he doesn't really love watches. So Dan's kind of the complete opposite of that, in the sense that he makes them for the love of it, and he makes them so they're affordable for people. So sourcing these different movements, you know, all these watches vary in terms of the movement that's in them, and that's kind of why. It's 50 meters water resistant, so you know, it's not significant, but it's a racing watch, so you're not meant to be wearing this in the surf or even in the bath for that matter. I mean, I guess you could, because it's 50 meters water resistant, but that's not what this watch is about. This watch is for the motor enthusiast. It's absolutely stunning. It's finished to a really great level of detail, and it's just, the look of it is unbelievable. But the case back is also fun. I'll put some pictures up of that, but that, you know, it's got a cute little car in the back, which I think is spectacular. And you know, these are limited edition, so like I said, you can't actually get this particular model on the website. That's sold out, I think, because it's meant to be a bit of a Daytona homage, if you want to call it that. It went pretty quick. It actually ran off the shelf, so to speak. I think my wife got it on Chrono24. I couldn't tell you how much she paid for it, for the resale value, but I'm glad she did, because that was definitely the one that I loved the most. But there's the Evil Panda, so black dial, there's a blue dial, and there's a gilt, and they all look fabulous as well. To be honest with you, I would have been happy with any of the 1962s. I'd be happy with at least one of every of his version of watches out there. I think a dive watch will have to be next. But in terms of this watch, it's the classic one. I've put it up a couple of times for alternatives to the Daytona, different chronographs for good quality. Like, this watch makes not only my list on multiple occasions, but it makes the list for other watch news sites and bloggers, vloggers, YouTubers, whatever you want to call it. It is a classic watch. I think, on a personal note, because, you know, have to nitpick somewhat, I know it's 39 as what Dan says is a classic vintage watch size. I'd really love it to be slightly bigger. I reckon maybe like a 42 would be the sweet spot for this watch for me. I don't know what it is about my obsession with larger watches. They just look good. I mean, most watches look good on my wrist. My wife laughs. I can wear shoes, caps, and watches of any kind of inclination, size, shape, style, whatever, and it seems to just work. I bought a pair of Air Jordans the other day, my first pair, and she was horrified when I first started looking at them, and then I put them on and she went, "Oh, they look really good." So yeah, so it's good that I can, you know, live out my inner child daily with that kind of stuff. But look, I'm so happy that I got this watch for Christmas. I think in terms of its price point at $270 US, assuming you could get it at that price being sold out, but the others are of that price point. It's an epic watch for, you know, a decent, affordable amount of coin. Now, almost not quite double that. I'm being a bit facetious, but you know, it is substantially more in Aussie Monopoly money. But even then, let's call it $500, which it's not quite. A $500 racing chronograph of that quality and finish, I think, is a really solid price for a watch. And if you're a collector, like Dan's watches are collecting watches, like if you appreciate watch collecting, vintage watches, and someone doing something with this level of passion and finish at this price point, then you're going to love Dan and you're going to want to have his watches, right? Which is kind of where I sit. This watch you know, kind of ticks all those boxes, and it's just elegant and classy. You could dress it down, you can dress it up. I mean, I guess you could take it to the racetrack. I mean, I'm useless at math, right? I joke, had I been good at maths and science, I would have been a doctor. Instead, I went to law school because I was good at English. And so when people online kind of tell me about the chronograph and how it works and how you measure time, like my eyes glaze over. So to me, a chronograph as a complication is probably not going to get much use. For me, it's an aesthetic and just a classic complication. If you want to call me stupid, naive, a moron or whatever, because of that, whatever. But it doesn't mean I can't appreciate the ingenuity behind it and the fact that people do actually use them for that purpose. I think it's super clever. I mean, I just need to concentrate on driving most of the time, let alone measuring any kind of time, speed or distance. But, you know, from a racing point of view, I get the vintage vibe. I get the history behind it, and I kind of love it, you know, and that's why I like chronographs. As a complication, I don't know if they're my favorite, but, you know, other than, actually, it's probably the most common complication I actually have next to my dive watch collection. So, and again, you've heard me talk many times about the fact that a dive watch is great, absolutely beautiful, stunning, and all of the above, but I don't dive. And the people that do dive don't generally use dive watches, given I know a number of divers. So it again is a complication that's not really necessary, but it's nice to have. Anyway, if you're a Dan Henry fan, make sure you tell your other Dan Henry fans about this video. If you liked this video, do me a favor if you haven't already, smash the like, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, all that stuff. And let me know your thoughts on this watch and whether you're a Dan Henry fan or not. Like I said, I could recommend this watch if you're a fan and you've been sort of wondering whether or not to like dip into Dan Henry. Do it. I don't think you'll be disappointed at all. It's time. Oh, and also let me know what you got for Christmas, just for a bit of fun. Thanks, everyone.